The common question is, what are good city building games for total beginners, like people who have never played city builders before or have very limited experiences with city building? How do you get into the genre? And today, I'm gonna go over a number of games which I think are great starting points, but also as I go through the list, I'm gonna talk about various other things that we can consider in terms of introducing people to the genre, or if you're interested in getting into the city building genre, some things that you could think about. So the first game on this list is Anno 1404. This is a historical city building game, which these days you can get relatively cheaply, and that is something that I want to talk about in these games. Cost is a factor. If you're getting into a genre for the first time, or you're just dipping your toes into it to see if you like it, you don't want to be splurging a lot of money. And that's why with the Anno series, which is typically a solid series for the most part, Anno 1404 is often considered the best, if not the second best Anno game, where many would consider Anno 1800 to be the better, more modern experience. However, Anno 1800 can be pretty expensive, all things considered. So Anno 1404, much easier to get into. It's an older game, but it still looks great, it still plays great, and also this is a good one which is set in a historical setting. It's not about history specifically, but thematically it's historical. And that is another thing that you want to consider when trying to get into a genre. People often ask me, which one should I play first? Which city builder should I try if I'm trying to get into the genre? And one important point is, what are you interested in? It's gonna be very frustrating, even if you pick a very good game, if you're not into the theme, if you're not into the setting, then that can be a very frustrating experience. So if you like history or just historical settings, Anno 1404 is going to be a good one because it's set in the year 1404. So if you're into that century, Anno will fulfill that need. Now, gameplay-wise, this one has a lot of logistical resource management along with city building, and you are sailing some ships around as well to explore and colonize various islands while dealing with other leaders of other nations and other factions. And there's these layers of politics, there's these layers of trade, there's a lot of moving of resources around. There's a lot of depth and complexity that can be here, but just dipping your toes into this game and playing the campaign, just the story mode campaign, it'll bring you through all the things very gently and introduce you to all the mechanics. And the story is relatively interesting, and there's nice voice acting, and there's little tidbits here and there. So Anno 1404 I found was a very easy experience to get into. But if you're not into the whole historical thing, don't worry, we've got other games to look at. If you're a bit more of a nostalgic gamer, TheoTown might be up your alley. Now, this is a urban, modern setting city builder in the traditional sense, though it's not SimCity. SimCity, the various SimCity games, could be easy enough to get into if you like those sorts of things, but SimCity can also be very complex. TheoTown is like SimCity Lite with a retro twist to it. You still have all the typical things you need and want from a traditional city building game. Like this at first glance looks like a pixel graphic SimCity, but it's not quite as complex and in-depth. It's not shallow by any means, but TheoTown has a lot more decorative and creative elements to it, which allow you to design your city with a bit more detail, but it's still a city building game as well. Now, I know not everyone is into the pixel art graphics. Some people look at pixels and they're like, no, this is definitely not for me. It hurts my eyes to look at pixels. And if you're that kind of gamer, no worries, there's a lot of options here. If you're okay, or you enjoy the pixel art, or you're more of an old school gamer, or you're a more nostalgic kind of gamer, or you just enjoy the pixel art style, then TheoTown is going to feed into that. but also it's a nice city building game with a bit more of a creative output. And most importantly, it's very cheap. You don't have to worry too much about investing into this one if you're a little bit concerned. This one is also on various platforms, so you can play TheoTown on mobile, you can play it on your PC. There's probably more here than you're expecting, because when I first saw TheoTown, I'm like, oh, this is just some mobile city builder. But no, actually TheoTown is a proper city building game, and it's quite popular. People always talk about it as an option. It's generally an easy one to get into as well. There's a very straightforward tutorial, and then you can just mess around with it and see where the city takes you. Next up, I'm gonna talk about Tropico. So, sticking to a modern urban setting, but in tropical islands. And Tropico 6 is gonna probably be the best one to jump into if you want this. Now, Tropico 6 and Tropico games in general have this dictatorial approach where you are a dictator of a sort of banana republic. So this is taking the urban city building into a bit more of a thematic holiday vibes, Paradise Islands kind of thing. And Tropico 6 is the most recent released one at the time of making this video, though they are going to be releasing Tropico 7 in 2026. Though, having said that, the latest Tropico game is likely going to be more expensive, and even though it might be a better game, the cost is a factor, as I've mentioned, when starting out in a genre and trying to figure out whether you like it. You don't want to be spending too much money, and when Tropico 7 releases, Tropico 6 will likely go on sale, or just be cheaper in general. Now, the Tropico series has this common thread of being this dictator called El Presidente, and you have to play some politics with various factions to keep your people happy. The various Tropico games have slightly different settings, some dealing with wartime settings, some you're just trying to steal stuff from the world and trying to enrich yourself. So there's a bit of a naughty vibe to being El Presidente in charge of your own little banana republic. And you can have a little bit of fun with that. And that might be a nice twist to the city building genre in terms of thematics. And it does have to be said that the Tropico games all kind of look nice. It is also one of the most consistent city building series in the history of city builders. Pretty much since Tropico 1, there has always been a recent Tropico game, even when the rest of the genre was on a hiatus and not really releasing anything significant. Tropico games still come out, and none of them have been considered bad, really. They're all either good or pretty good or really good. And Tropico 6 at the moment is the most popular. Even with the sequel coming out, you might want to consider Tropico 6 for cost reasons, because it's still a good game and it will be cheaper. Just mechanically speaking as well, this one has a lot of resource management because you're an island nation and you want to, one, enrich yourself, and also enrich your island and keep the people happy enough so they don't overthrow you. But that means you do need to exploit the island's natural resources and move things around, exporting and importing things to make sure the economy doesn't collapse under your rule. But things can be a little bombastic in this one as well. It's a little bit silly in times, and I think that is actually a very important selling point of the Tropico series. Now, this next one is actually the biggest, most popular city builder in the world, and it has been so for over a decade. It's called Cities Skylines, and this is just a big selling point for a new player because, one, it's pretty easy to get into because it's been so popular for so long with so many updates. It's refined, it's streamlined. It's not considered a difficult game, but a lot of people really like it for creative endeavors as well. And it's a modern urban setting, which it is also a modern game. So it looks decent and it plays very smoothly. Having said that, the biggest roadblock to City Skylines is cost. If you want to buy the game and all of its DLC, it can cost a ton of money, which is something that you would want to avoid for a new player. Now, the base game is not too expensive, but still, it doesn't feel worth it buying the base game at full price. If you could wait for a sale, or if you can find some kind of bundle or a collection when it goes on sale where you can buy the base game with a bunch of DLC for like 20 bucks or something, that makes it much more worth it. So definitely wait for a sale for City Skylines. But The gameplay of this is solid. It's got a lot of content. Even the base game has a lot of content, and you're building a proper urban city. It's got a ton of detail, infrastructure, services, the residential, commercial, industrial, population, money, budgets, everything. And besides that, there's a lot of mods to City Skylines as well, which is not really a beginner thing, but if a player starts to get into City Skylines and really spends a lot of time with it, the mods can take you much, much further. So City Skylines, its popularity kind of speaks for itself. Now, to note, there is City Skylines 2, which may one day be considered better than City Skylines 1, but for now, it's a rougher experience and still needs more time and refinement. City Skylines is also on various platforms, including consoles, so it's pretty accessible. So for a beginner getting into the series, City Skylines 1 is going to be where to go. And even when City Skylines 2 becomes bigger and better, it would probably mean City Skylines 1 gets cheaper, so still a better entry point for a new player. Taking that down to a much smaller scale and a much cheaper point as well, Pocket City 2. Pocket City 1 was pretty much this mobile game that got ported to PC, and it was a very simple, easy RCI, residential, commercial, and industrial, SimCity-like builder, but it was simplified. Still decent, still better than what you would expect from a mobile city builder, but it's very much toned down. Pocket City is on mobile and on PC, so it's pretty easy to get into. Pocket City 1 is cheaper, but Pocket City 2 looks a little bit better and for like a couple extra bucks. But also Pocket City 2, it has these driving around, zoomed in, explore your city kind of stuff, which may or may not be a selling point for you or for a new player. Maybe for a new player, they'd want to jump into the city and explore their dynamic world and see things close up, but it might also be considered a distraction. So that really depends. If you hate the driving around and getting closer to your city, Pocket City 1 doesn't have that. But Pocket City 2, it's still considered a decent game, and it's got a bunch of features to it. It's just on the more simple side. It is the simplest game on this list. So if you're looking for something that is really, I'd hesitate to say basic, because that implies that it's bad. It's not bad, it is what it is. And the price point explains what it is, really. Pocket City 2 is just the simplest, most basic one on this list. And in a good way, something needs to fill the space where it's somewhat like a mobile game, but not that exploitative, and it's not gonna annoy you. It's just what a mobile game is supposed to be, and Pocket City 2, it can be the easiest entry point. Now, if you want something even simpler than this, then I would recommend Pocket City 1. But I would not recommend anything simpler than that, because then you get to places where the game just kind of gets a bit boring. So Pocket City 1 if you want the simplest version, Pocket City 2 for the more recent, slightly updated version with a few extra features. And then we have Urbek, a city builder. Urbek is a chill, relaxing, low-poly looking game, but it has enough complexity to keep things going. This is a very aesthetic builder, where you're building up a city and there's no money that you're dealing with. It's just resources that you're collecting and harvesting from the environment, and you're placing things down to build these neighborhoods. And depending on how you place things down and where you arrange things and adjacency bonuses, like what's next to what, then things will evolve and change in certain directions. And you build these neighborhoods which follow certain themes. You can have this very agricultural, village-like neighborhood, or you can get into this very urban district kind of skyscraper neighborhood. And because it's all about the placement and adjacencies and locations of how you're building things and where you're placing things, this has a very puzzle vibe to it. So it's a very relaxing, chill experience, but also you are still building your city, and after thinking about it for a while, Urbek does still count as a city building game. But it is more on the puzzle side, and that might be what you're looking for. If someone is coming from a more puzzle game background and they want to get into city building, or you think they might enjoy the city building genre but want a bridge from more puzzle experiences to the city building, then Urbek fits really nicely there. It's a proper-ish city builder with some very satisfying outcomes. Once you start putting things together in a way that actually works, it's like, oh wow, that's the dopamine hit. It's actually going to give you what you're wanting from there. And the varying styles and buildings, it really does look nice. This one, it's not the cheapest game out there, but it is on the cheaper side, which is a nice point to share as well. And also, the developer has continued to update this game over the years since its release. So over time, it's just gotten more and more little things, more and more details, more and more buildings. It just keeps expanding, but at its current point right now, it's just the nicest, chillest experience I think you can get on this list. Now, going to a classic experience, I'm going to talk about Zeus and the Poseidon expansion. This is called Zeus Master of Olympus, and it's an older game, and that comes with some caveats. Now, if you like history and fantasy, the setting here is really good. It's ancient Greece from a fantastical perspective, so you're dealing with the gods and mythology and monsters and all of that. The heroes of legend and all of that good stuff. So the problem with classic experiences is there's sometimes a little problems here and there. So first of all, just getting the game to run today. There can be, on certain systems and computers, animation glitches where things are just sped up and flickering and stuff. There are fixes for this stuff today, but if you're not used to modding or fixing games, that can be a bit of a challenge. Also, by default, this game doesn't run in widescreen. There is a patch to make it run in widescreen. So if you are looking for a city building experience to get into for the first time and you're experienced with games, then you can just patch this up yourself. Otherwise, if you're looking to get someone into city building, or you don't really know anything about modding games, then maybe get a bit of help or help the person set this up. But once it's set up, there's unfortunately one more caveat. This is a partial puzzle/city building game. So this game is from a series of games from Impressions Games, which is a company back in the day. And there's this series which went through various historical eras and civilizations. One was called Caesar 3, which is set in ancient Rome. Then there was Pharaoh, set in ancient Egypt. Zeus, Master of Olympus, came next, which is this ancient Greece with a fantasy twist. And then there was Emperor, Rise of the Middle Kingdom, set in ancient China. Zeus, I find to be the easiest of the four because these games have what's called the Walker system. So in this game, instead of placing a building and it have a radius effect, like, oh, here's a bunch of houses, I place a market nearby, the market's near the houses, so they should have access. This game doesn't work like this. In this game, the market or any working service building would send out a person, a walker, that will then walk down the road. And at any intersection, they will take a random turn. So if there's an intersection and it's not blocked off or controlled properly, these walkers could walk in any direction down any road, and unless they pass the house, that house doesn't have access to this building. So you could have a market a few steps away from a house, and that house never get market access because the walker just happens to keep walking down the wrong direction. And understanding this mechanic can be difficult today. This is a classic game problem where once you know how it works, it's actually fun and interesting, but it's just not how people make games today. But Zeus, Master of Olympus, is the only one in this series that has a proper tutorial. The others kinda teach you things here and there, but Zeus has a tutorial and it explains things much better. So of this series, Zeus, Master of Olympus is the easiest one to get into. And if you enjoy this one, then you can check out the others. You can check out Emperor, Pharaoh, and Caesar 3, and you'll enjoy those already. So Zeus is definitely the easiest one to get into. Maybe not the easiest city builder overall, but the reward for getting into Zeus and then checking out the other games gets you so much game to play. 4 full games, and you could get hundreds, if not thousands of hours of entertainment out of these 4 games. If you want to get into those historical settings, these ancient historical settings, then Zeus is the nicest entry point. And I can highly recommend it, but keep in mind the caveats and how it needs to be set up a little bit, and you need to understand that this is an older game. Good point, it is cheap and often goes on sale. And just as an important note, when buying old games, we're talking about 15 years or older games, it's much better to buy off of GOG.com rather than Steam or anywhere else, because GOG tends to, one, allow you to download the exe installer, which allows you to install games a bit more freely, makes it easier to mod. But also GOG tends to tweak the games a little bit so they run better compared to Steam, where games are often just ported as is. So old games, like 15 years or older, better to get off of GOG.com. And there you go, that is a bunch of games and reasons why these are what I would say to be the easiest city builders to get into for a beginner. Whether you are an experienced gamer but not experienced in city building, or you are not experienced in gaming at all and you think city builders are cool, or you think you want to get someone else into city building. These are what I would recommend and why I would recommend them. I hope you found this interesting or useful, but if you'd like to continue the city building journey, do click the videos on the screen right now. I can take you through the history of city building or talk about the best city builders of all time. Both of those videos, very good. It can expand your city building journey and maybe you'd find those interesting. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and found it interesting and or useful, and I will see you in the next video.